All right, folks, let's kick it off. Well, folks, we got Kim in the house, financial expert who I've been following on social media things since I think you started. I think we like when you first kicked off, you had like a couple subscribers, and I thought, so this girl is super passionate for helping people, and like the way you are able to come off with conviction, what you say, it's just so pure and tell us.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Tell us what you got going on.
Yeah, so I started my business about a year and a half ago. And, how I started my business, people think like I'm crazy, but it's fine. I've been called crazy most of my life. I think crazy is a good thing. But I remember about, I would say 2.5 years ago, not even, let me rewind. I would say about 5 years ago, I struggled with finances. I was making a lot of money, but I didn't know how to manage my money. And so, I started making six figures in my early 20s and went on to making more than $250,000 a year and so forth. But no one sat me down and was like, this is how you budget. This is how you invest. This is what interest rates are. This is what credit cards are, what you use them for, what they're not for. And so I struggled a lot financially because I came from humble beginnings. So I had this like internal urge to like show that I've made it. I had this internal urge of, wanting to live a life of luxury, but not doing it the right way. And so I ended up finding myself in $90,000 in debt. I was making a high income. Yeah. But I was in so much debt. And I went on this journey where I was like, enough is enough. Like I was working alongside millionaires, multimillionaires, and they weren't even talking to me about money. Like, they were telling me buy property, invest in real estate, but nothing of like the fundamentals of finances. And so I went on this journey. I'm like, enough is enough. I need to figure out how to pay off this debt and build wealth. Like I'm making a lot of money and I look rich on the outside, but I actually want to be rich. So I started investing in financial courses, learning about it. I have no debt today. I paid off all $90,000. I have investments now. And I'm really grateful, but it was a lot of hard work. And then I would say about 2.5 years ago, I was praying to God and I was like, God, like, please give me renewed vision, like help me in my journey. What am I supposed to do next? And God put it on my heart to open up this business. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like the girl that like was in $90,000 in debt, not that good with money. And now like you want me to open up this business, teaching people about financial literacy, like crazy. But I said, you know what? Like I'm a strong Christian woman and I'm obedient. So if God tells me to do something, like I'm not one to question him. Like he told me to do it, like I'm going to do it or else I feel like he's going to punish me. So, okay, God, I heard you. I'm going to go do it. So I remember I bought this like master financial course to become a master coach. And I paid for it. My fiance came home that day and I was like, babe, God told me to open up a business doing financial coaching. So I'm going to open up a business doing this. And he's like, what? Like, this was like, yeah, so like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I was praying. And in prayer, I feel like God put on my heart to do it. So I just paid like this master financial course was thousands of dollars. And I was like, I just paid for it because like, I feel like the population needs this. Like over 70% of Americans are in debt living paycheck to paycheck. And this is not something that's taught in school. Like I was around millionaires and multimillionaires and no one was teaching me about money. And so I was like suffering in silence, which I think a lot of people are. And a lot of things that I learned, like I had to unlearn things that I was taught growing up. And so I did the master financial course. I opened up the business and I kid you not, like within a week of opening up the business, I got my first client. Like I only had like 5 followers on Instagram. Yeah. Like you can't tell me like it was not God. Like, oh
Wow.
my goodness. Sorry. Yeah, you can't. Sorry. And did it go out? Sorry. I got to call my math. Okay, good. Like you can't tell me that that's not God. Like there's no way. Like, and this person, there was one in California, one in New York. Like, again, I only had like 5 followers and they were my friends. Like, it's not even like they were like people. I don't even know how people found my page. Like, I don't know. So I started getting clients and I realized like, wow, like this is really what God wants me to do. And one of the clients, it was so surreal because I've had a very rough upbringing and I never thanked God for my rough upbringing. I was always like, why, God, why did you allow this to happen to me? Like, I don't understand. Like, why did, yeah, I was like, why me? Like, and I remember I had this client that was an orphan just like me. And, his mother passed away when he was 7. His father abandoned him. He was, living with a family friend. They were about to get kicked out. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I keep getting a call. They were about to get kicked out. And he called me and was like, Kim, I only have like $5,000 in my account. I was laid off. My brother's been on drugs. He's about to, like, I'm afraid he's going to go to jail. Like, I have no one. What do I do with money? And I just guided him and I shared with him. Normally, I didn't share my story. So I shared with him, like, hey, like, I understand you. And this was my journey too. And this is what I did. And it gave him hope. And he was like, wow, like, I would have never known. And, it was so crazy because I hung up like the call with him. And I was like, you know what, God, like, thank you for like allowing me to go through such pain and struggle because I was able to get through to this person. And had I not have endured that, I would not have been able to help him. And so it was crazy. Like just being obedient led me to that moment. And then every moment after, it's just been like crazy to me. Like I feel like there's been different people in my path that have helped me in the journey. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to open up my own business. Like I was always like, I'm going to be in corporate America forever. So I just like went on this like whole other path.
Wow. Wow. Let's talk a little bit about the, thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Way to trust your gut. And really listen. You asked,
Yeah.
which is huge.
Yeah.
Asked, said, what am I to do now? And then
Yeah.
and then you acted on it.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful. When you say the master course, is that the name of it?
Yes, it's Master Financial Course for coaches.
Master Financial Course for coaches.
For coaches, like it's to become a master financial coach.
That's freaking amazing that there's something like that out there. That is cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to take that. So throughout your trainings, let's talk a little bit about this because the other day I heard somebody on like a TikTok or something talking about the paradoxes that we find ourselves in life. For example, if you want to be rich, you're probably going to feel poor along that journey because you're saving money, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What other kind of paradoxes have you learned along the way? It's something similar to what I just said.
Yeah, I think when it comes to wealth, I think the biggest thing with wealth is sacrifice and discipline. I think a lot of people want instant gratification and that building wealth takes time. There is no get rich quick scheme. I don't care what person online is telling you that. Like that's a bunch of BS. There is no cheat code. There's maybe a cheat strategy by hiring a mentor that is where you want to be and it'll condense the time, but it's still going to require time and hard work, sacrifice, all of those things. I think, like, for example, me personally, I live off of 40% of my income and the other 60% I'm investing. And so I don't feel like I live poor, but like some people may think that I'm a frugal person. Like I'm not a cheap person, but I am a very frugal person.
And you said earlier that you live this lavish or were living this lavish lifestyle on paper.
Right?
Acting up. And you weren't doing it, quote unquote, the right way.
Yes.
What is the right way?
So the right way is to like the most underrated thing is budgeting. Okay. I don't care if you're only making $2,000 a month or you're making $100,000 a month. If you don't know how to budget your money and you don't know where your money is going, like you're already going to fail at that point. So I didn't budget my money. I didn't know what was going in and out. What was going out was more than what was coming in. I was overspending. I think that's like the first thing. The second thing is building an emergency fund. Growing up, I was taught that credit cards are for emergencies, and they're absolutely not for emergencies. And so that's something that's not really talked about. And I've even done videos on it, and people have gotten triggered by me saying that video, saying credit cards are not for emergencies. And if someone's told you that, you've been lied to. And a lot of times, I don't believe that the lie is malicious. I believe that it's just, generational poverty being passed down. And they always say like they did the best they had with what they could or what they knew. And a lot of times what they knew wasn't right, but believed that it was right. So they just kept passing it down generation over generation. And someone in the generational line needs to stop it because that is just absolutely not true. So I would say the second part would be building an emergency fund. And then the third part, which is investing. So, investing in your 401k, investing in stocks, investing in real estate. 90% of millionaires came from investing in real estate. So I don't understand why people are not more prone to investing in real estate. You hear people say, well, it's risky and I don't know about that. What if the tenant doesn't pay? Well, it's more risky to not invest, than to invest. And okay, if someone doesn't pay, you figure it out. Like that's part of being successful. You pivot. I have a friend that owns multiple properties and he started building his real estate portfolio, I would say like 6-7 years ago. And he said when he started telling like friends and family he was going to be investing in real estate, they were like, oh no, I don't know if you should do that. And there was just so many naysayers and negativity, but those people never did it. Those people never took that risk. And now my friend has a real estate portfolio worth millions of dollars. So it's just, I think getting with the right people and taking the risk is also really important too.
Now, what do you think people's subconscious thought is when it comes to the notion of budgeting, as far as why they don't?
I think that they don't do it because I feel like there's so much information out there. And when there's information overload, people just like freeze and don't do anything. There's so many like apps that show budgeting. There's graphs. It can be very intimidating. And I reached out to a developer because I said, you know what? I want to make budgeting easy, simple. Like it's not overwhelming. You're not having a bunch of graphs. Like let's just simplify it. Like I think if you want productivity in anything, you just need to keep it as simple as you possibly can. So I had a budgeting spreadsheet created of like what I thought would be the most simple. And all of my clients use it. My clients have gone from $60,000 in debt to debt-free in 6 months with the spreadsheet because the spreadsheet calculates everything for them. It has one graph where you see where your money's being allocated and it's not overwhelming. But versus I've seen different apps online where it's hard to use, it's overwhelming, like they don't understand it. I also think that some people are ignorant and they think, well, I don't need to budget. But it's like, everyone needs to budget. Like multimillionaires are budgeting their money. Why would you think that you can't budget your money? Like it's a fundamental principle. You need to know what's going in and out of your account. And you also need to assign a plan for every dollar that's coming in and out of your account. Like whether that's investing, whether that's a vacation fund, depending on what you're trying to do. You can't just think that, yeah, it's just going to be there and it's just going to grow. Like you actually have to be intentional.
So let's paint a picture here. Let's say I just finished, or let's say I'm going to college. I got a part-time job, living with my parents, right?
Okay.
And there's no financial obligation and anything I earn is profits.
Okay.
Let's start there, paint a picture for the ideal system for that person. Like that's, I think, baseline, right?
Yeah.
What happens next? So they've got this money coming in. Let's say it's, who knows, $15,000 a year for 4 years in college.
Okay.
Thanks. What do they do? How do they really just drive this home and crush it financially?
Yeah, I think the only way to win with money is to first build the foundation. It's like building a house without building the foundation. So I definitely recommend investing. Absolutely. But I think that college student needs to understand how to budget. What's an emergency fund? What are credit cards? What do interest rates mean? What type of loans are there? They need to understand it, but they also need to be investing their money. A lot of college students, they're buying cars. They're living at home, buying these lavish cars. They're spending money on clothes versus like, hey, I'm going to get the knowledge with this and I'm going to get compound interest on what I've invested in versus, hey, I'm just going to get the new Benz or this new car and I'm going to look cool with my friends and all of that. Most college kids are not thinking like that. And unless you have parents that are like passing down this knowledge, I don't think college kids are like very in like the now and partying. They're not even thinking about financial literacy at all. So they have to either learn it somewhere, whether it's their parents or being around a wealthy family and friends. If not, they're not going to do it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's create the ideal framework then, shall we?
Sure.
One that can appeal to the masses. Now, I noticed you stated that you invest or that you live off of 40%.
Yes.
Yes. The rest,
Yes.
just I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say that probably also need to account for taxes.
Yes.
Probably need to account for that quote unquote emergency fund. So let's talk
Yeah.
about a good framework with percentages or dollar amounts when it comes to all of those other things as well.
Sure. So, I just did a seminar on financial literacy, and this question came up. Well, Kim, what percentage do I invest? What percentage do I save? What do I do? And the percentages change based off where you're at. So if you're living at home and, you're not paying for food, you're not paying for rent, you should be saving and investing like 90%. Like there's no given percentage. I see a lot of times people that write books or online, they're like, this is the percentage you should follow. But it depends on your situation. Like your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months. But if you are living at home and you don't have expenses, then you're like, okay, what's that number? I would say the number should be if you were to move out and it is the cost of living, the cost of groceries, all of that. What is that amount? And build 3 to 6 months of that. After you have that saved, then start investing. Like whether you want to buy property, whether you want to do stocks, 401k. Like I don't give investment advice on this is what you should invest in. Like I'm not a financial advisor, I'm a financial coach. And that could be very gray area because nobody can fully tell you invest in this and you're going to make money. Like it's a risk. But I would say 401k, property, I'm big on property. You should buy property. As much property as you can buy, you should buy. Like I think as young as you can. Every millionaire and multimillionaire that I know own multiple properties.
Yeah. Yeah. You said 90% of people build their wealth off of real estate.
Yes, 90% of millionaires became millionaires through real estate.
Wow.
Yes. So, like, if you're asking me, I'm biased, okay? There's going to be some other people that are like, invest in stocks, or invest in your 401k or invest in Roth IRA because of tax purposes. Everyone is going to give you their own preference. And also it depends on your income bracket. Some people are making $500,000 a year. So depends on their situation, which one is a better investment? It just depends. A college student making $15,000 a month, I definitely think like S&P 500. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so like you take this with a grain of salt. But I also think investing in real estate, like rental properties.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Kim, fear and ego come into mind here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's two terms. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that when it comes to why people don't implement what they know is right. What do you think? Deep down inside of their core is stopping them. Like you can lead a horse to water, but they're choosing not to drink it. I'm circling fear and ego. Is there anything else that might come to people's ways? Yeah.
I would say lack of knowledge and lack of confidence.
Oh.
I also think influence. I think I know this sounds like cliche, but you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. So when you're spending time with these people, are they talking about money? Are they talking about investing? Are they in, good relationships? Do they believe in God? Are they into fitness? All of those different things will affect you and what you're doing or not doing. And so I think your circle of influence definitely plays a role. If you're a college kid and you're hanging out with people that are just partying all the time, you're not thinking about financial literacy or money. If you're hanging out with people that are going somewhere, you're going to be thinking of how I can go somewhere. I think that also plays a role.
Yeah. So I think we could touch upon the subject of energy for a moment. Currency, the derivative of current, perhaps. You have electric current, electricity, all that stuff, right? It's my point. And if you're doing things that are low energy activities, or if you're investing time in low energy people, or you are absorbing that low energy and is reflected in your. It's a high.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's not just the practical implementation of saving money. It's more than that. It's a life.
Yeah.
It's a way of being. It's who you identify as, right?
Yes.
Which is a whole nother category of training. Did they talk about that in the Master Financial?
No. And it's interesting you say that. So no, they didn't. And with my clients, there is a part of my coaching with them on changing their identity. And that is, I've read multiple books on this. I've gone to Tony Robbins seminars. I read this book. It's called Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah.
It's phenomenal. But there also needs to be an identity shift from going from I'm not good with money to I'm financially responsible. And so there's definitely exercises that I do with my clients on changing the identity. And that's with anything. If you want lasting change, you need to change your identity. You need to change the way you see money, the value of money. It's so much more than like just your actions behind it. It's how you view money, what you were taught growing up, how to undo certain patterns and behaviors, your core beliefs about money. Like in my seminar that I did recently, one of the subjects that we talked about were money myths and some of the core beliefs that people feel around money. So like some people feel like, I'd rather be happy than be rich. And it's like, that's a poverty mindset. You can be happy and rich. And then people will say, well, how come there's billionaires or millionaires, they end up committing suicide? And I say, if you have shitty people in your life, whether you have money or not, or don't have money, you're going to be depressed. It has nothing to do with having money. And so there are people that really believe that if they have money, they're going to be unhappy or they can only have one or the other. Or there's people that really believe that money is the root of all evil. And it's like, no, money is a tool. It doesn't make you more happy, less happy. It's a resource. I think it can make you more happy, in my opinion, in the way of you have access to more resources when you have money. But it doesn't make you happy or sad. It's just a tool to navigate your life. Like I tell people, for example, let's say you had a family member that was really sick. Wouldn't you want to have the financial means to take them to the best doctors? Or let's say you saw a homeless person on the street. Wouldn't you want to have the financial means instead of just giving them $10, $20, giving them a job?
Yeah. Or when you go on a vacation and you don't want to have to be super microscopic in your planning. You want freedom. And you know what? I'm on this vacation and I want to do a boat cruise today because looks like people are doing that and they're having a good time. I don't want to be stuck on the beach the whole trip.
Yeah.
Hey, swipe, go on the boat cruise. Right?
Yeah.
Experiences.
Yep.
And not otherwise have had access to.
Exactly. And so there's definitely an identity. There's definitely core beliefs when it comes to money. And I think 80% is really behavior. It's your behavior. It's the habits that you do. It's not what you do every once in a while. It's what you're doing consistently. That matters. And I believe that's with anything. I'm very big on the 80-20 rule. And so with money, it's like 80% of the time, be really disciplined, have the sacrifice, and 20% live a little.
Now, I want everybody to take a pause and really absorb what Kim said over the past few minutes here about it's so much more than,
Mhm.
so much more than just budgeting. It's so much more than just saving, right?
Mhm.
So if you ever want money to be something that you're able to master, to control, right? You've got to go all in.
Mhm.
Can't just do one thing. You've got to do it all. You've got to become the person that fill in the blank.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow. And with the help of somebody that
Yes. Yes, I think what you said, I really love how you said go all in. If you want to master anything, you need to immerse yourself in that. Whatever that is. If it's you want to win with money, you want to win in fitness, you want to win in sales, you have to go all in and immerse yourself in that and find someone who is where you want to be and you can condense the time. That is the biggest like hack or whatever you want to call it versus spending years and years failing and trying to figure it out.
now. We know it's not that simple, right? Because there's an art form to that as well. Let's say you find somebody that's where you want to be.
Mm.
Well, they're not going to spend their time with you for free all the time.
Yep.
So, sidebar conversation. We're going to want to go ahead and make sure that we provide value to those, right, Kim?
Yes. And I say to people, you pay in time or money. You don't like people at the top or people that are where you want to be. You're right. They're not going to help you for free. Maybe it depends, but a lot of time those people are really busy. And, you know, it reminds me of this story and I'll tell you really quick.
Story.
So, okay, good. So when I was 24 years old, I wanted to do B2B sales. I had done retail management, but I wanted to do B2B. I had never done B2B sales, like that art of selling, of cold calling, door knocking, all of that. And I applied for this position. And on this team, they were top in the country at the time. And so it was 10 reps. They were number one in the country, this team. And I just knew in my heart that I can do it. Like I knew that I could be like them. I saw the vision. I prayed about it. And I was like, I know I can do it. But I was the youngest. I didn't have a college degree, but in my heart, I knew it. And so I remember I didn't get the account executive role at the time. I got the sales associate role and it was a 90-day probation period. And if I passed the 90 days, then I would get the role. And so, and if I didn't pass, then I'd be without a job because now I just went to a different segment. And at the time I was making like 80K. And so I remember talking to my aunt and my aunt was like, Kim, you're making good money. You don't have a degree. Like you should just stay where you are. And this other position, they were making like 200K, these reps. And I said, no, like I believe in myself. Like, I don't need you to be telling me this before an interview. Like, I need you to speak life into me. Like, why are you telling me this? It was her own insecurities and projections. And so I ended up not getting the role, but I got the sales associate role. So within a month and a half of this sales associate role, I would go along with all the other account executives and I would cold call for them. I would spend the days with them, door knocking with them. I would see what they were doing. And there was one of them, which I'm still friends to this day. He was the number one rep on the team. So I was like a sponge, like trying to learn from everybody and make it my own and just kind of like implement what they were doing. And so I remember there was this one large account he could never get into. And I was like, it was like a challenge. Like, I'm getting into this account. Like, I'm going to prove myself. Like, I know I can do this. I end up getting a meeting with the account. Fast forward, the account ends up closing. I did a lot of the admin work and like getting in the door and like, learning along the way. I was following his lead. But this deal ended up closing and it was $40,000 commission deal. And this was almost 10 years ago. So I didn't get a penny of that $40,000. And I was on just like this low salary because I was not in a commission role anymore for those 90 days. So I like literally cut my paycheck in half from being a manager to now in this probation period. And then I closed this large deal with the top rep that makes $40,000 commission. And I was making nothing off of it. And I got him the meeting. I did a lot of work on it, like all of that. So at the time I was super bitter. I was mad. I went to the manager. I'm like, you need to promote me. Like, look what I did with him. I finally ended up getting promoted. The following month, I ended up being top in the nation, and I ended up being number one on that team. I took all of them out. And consecutive months, I was top in the country. I was only 24 years old. And now that I look back at it, I paid in time for that $40,000 that I never got. I didn't pay him $40,000, but I paid in time. And what he taught me in that 90-day period, I ended up making hundreds of thousands of dollars later on. And now in this generation, I feel like people don't want to pay in time or money. They want things given to them. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I said I was bitter. I was like, felt some type of way internally because I'm like struggling. And then I hope this guy closes his heel. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So if you don't have the time to do that, then you better cough up the money, because let's say I coughed him up 40 grand. I ended up making like millions of dollars from what he taught me because he'd been doing the job for a decade. So I literally condensed a decade's worth of learning in 90 days.
Right.
So, but I did pay for it. I didn't pay in money, but I sure paid in time.
And it reminds me of the story a past podcast guest talked to me about. He was young in the stock trading industry. He was literally in the boiler room in the financial district, Manhattan. Okay, and he would kind of give the inkling that he wanted to kind of go home early or not hit his goals for the day. And his mentor kept saying, "No." Absolute certainty. His mentor said, "No, you need to pay your dues."
Yes.
And that applies to any success endeavor. You need to pay your dues. And it reminds me of a book that I read about. It was called Everything is F Word.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on saying that we all feel so entitled,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
given to us.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. And Alex Ramosi said it best. It's never been easier in the history of the world to be successful because it is so easy to be complacent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything is at our fingertips right now. All you got to do is go for it.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing. Double-edged sword. That's well creating this awareness right now.
Yeah, you still have to have the strong work ethic and the sacrifice and discipline. I learned in 90 days what these people learned over a decade. And I remember like all of them had master's degrees. I was the youngest one. Nobody knew I came from like really troubled upbringing. And I remember being so intimidated when I would be in meetings with them, and they would have this like business verbatim that I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. So I would go on my notes and put like this word, this word, this word, and I'd go look it up on the dictionary later because I didn't understand. And I ended up figuring it out. And a lot of people now, like they call it imposter syndrome, and it like freezes them. And I tell people, do it before you're ready. You are never ready. Like there's no such thing as being ready. And if you need to fake it till you make it, which I've done many times in my career, then that's what you need to do. And eventually you will become it. When I was applying for that job, I wasn't qualified. I never cold call in my life. Like I never negotiated in my life. But I was like, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do this. And I would stay late in the office. I was cold calling, door knocking for all of these reps.
Oh my gosh. Kim, I'm getting fired up over this chat right now. This is going to get awesome. Okay. All right. Deep breath, Greg. Calm down. So let's focus on the process here.
Sure.
It's like you were able to, because it's all mental. We've heard this countless times. It's all mental. You were able to fall in love with the process, which enabled you to stay late, to do whatever it took to succeed 1% better every single day, right? What did that self-talk look like for you specifically on your journey?
I think the self-talk was like, I can do this. and I think I was delusional. I tell a lot of people you need to be delusional, and they look at me like I'm crazy, but I was delusional. I was like, I'm going to take everyone out. I'm going to be the number one rep. Like, I'm going to work harder than everyone. I'm going to figure this out. Like, they don't know what hit them because a lot of them, some of them treated me like less than. Like, I would walk in, I was just the young one. They had no idea my story, my grit, my tenacity, and they would treat me bad. And until they respected me, and when I took all of them out, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to show you, like, you don't know, like, God is working on me in the dark, and you're going to see like God's glory. Like, you don't even know, And I remember like my boss, I would go to my boss sometimes and I would like cry and I would say like, I just feel so like incompetent. Like, they're all so educated and so smart, and like the way they speak and the way they treat me. And my boss would tell me, you know what, Kim, what they don't have, you have. Like, you have the X factor. You have the drive that they don't have. Don't let them get to you. Keep doing what you're doing. And I remember even at one point, my boss on my first big commission check, my boss was like, you know what, Kim, I'm going to take you shopping, because I didn't know how to dress like super professional. I knew like the basics of it. And she's like, I'm going to take you shopping and we're going to start making you look like money. And like, she invested in me, but we both helped each other because she invested in me, and I ended up like, my quota at the time, just for reference, was like 25. Like, just think 25 units. I was closing 150, 175, 300. Like, I was like closing very high, and I was carrying the team, so the same people that looked down on me, that treated me the way that they did, ended up later respecting me, but also feeling threatened by me. And it was like, it was a lesson. And there was another hard lesson that I learned, because I started off with the self-talk of, I can do it. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. And I was praying and I'm like, God, like, I know you gave me this vision, like, help me, give me favor, all those things. And then it got to a point where I became very cocky because I was like, just so confident. It wasn't hard for me. Like, this was a God-given gift that I just honed in and it like turned on. And when I became cocky and stopped being like, no, this was a gift that God gave me and God gave me this favor, and I was making it more like I'm the shit and I got this, like, God like knocked me off my high horse. And then, yeah, I had to learn this lesson young. And then I realized, never ever be confident, but never be cocky, and always be humble, because what God gives, God can take away. And so it was a very like good lesson in my 20s to learn that, because I started off humble and then I was like, ha, you guys treating me like this, like, and I walk around like my shit don't stink. And I had to realize like, no, like, God elevated you, but you always walk in humility and know that it was God that did all of it. It was God that gave you the gift. It was God that helped you with the prospect. And, you walk in that. You don't walk in like, not revenge, but more of like, it was all you, because it was never all me.
Right. Right. Everything we have is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a irrefutable law that we should all adopt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And respectful of. Because to your point, it can be taken away at a moment's notice.
Yep.
Happened to me, happened to you.
Yep.
Different ways, but it happens. Yep.
Yeah.
A past podcast guest I told you about, you made it away from the boiler room all the way to the vice president of Merrill Lynch, top of the top. Yeah. And along the way,
yep,
happens to everybody. So,
yeah. And I'll just say one last thing on it that I learned. Never attach your identity to your success or your career, and never attach your identity to things that can be taken away, like money, positions, titles. Because when I was such a hard worker and was like, oh, I came from nothing and here I am. And there was at one point where I had an injury, had job loss, and I had to relearn like who Kim was. Like, Kim was no longer this like super successful person in this seat. And when you put your identity in how much money you have, the house you live in, the car you drive, the career that you have, and it gets taken away, you have like an identity crisis. So don't be attached to anything on the journey of learning financial literacy, learning a high income skill. Just know that this is a journey, but that doesn't define who you are. If you're in a position now where you're not making the money that you want to make, or you grew up in poverty, or it could be the direct opposite. You made it and now here you are. You are not defined by your situation. You can change your situation at any given moment, and don't attach your identity in anything material, whether that's money or, like I said, car, house, or whatever that is.
Let's play a little game here, okay? Let's say,
Sure.
imagine we're drawing a picture or a graph or something, and you have a bottom line and a top line, okay?
Mhm.
Bottom line is who you really are and where you're really going. And then the top line is identifying with your cars, your money, your houses, so there's stuff, right?
Yeah.
Line, again, to your point, it could be taken away at a moment's notice. It's all surface level. That's why it's at the top. It's at the surface, right?
Yep.
So remove all that. Where do people tap into to focus on the bottom line, who they really are? Where are we really going? So we can stop looking at that other stuff, the byproduct.
Right.
How would you, if you were to explain this to a 5-year-old or write a book about this, what would you call it? How would you explain this to people?
That's a really good question, to not be focused on the surface level things. That's a really good question. I would say, like, you own things, they don't own you. And you need to learn to be happy with everything and with nothing. And that is an inside job. No amount of, like, if it's a 5-year-old, like, whether you have the toys or you don't have the toys, you're going to be in joy. You're going to be happy and be joyful, and be grateful for anything and everything, and find, what it is you really want. Because the thing is like, people focus on the cars and the houses, but what they really want is financial freedom, or what they really want is significance, or they really want to prove something to someone, or it's not really what you see. It's really something of like it's like, for example, like the guy that has a hot woman and wants to show all his friends his hot woman, right? It's not about the hot woman. It makes him feel important. He wants to feel important. He wants to feel valuable. He wants to feel respected. Like the surface level products, whatever it is, underneath it, there's deeper meaning. And so you have to figure out what it is that you really want. And you don't need those material things to have it. Those material things are a byproduct of who you become and what your goals are. If you are a hard worker, you move up the ranks in whatever company that you're at, you're going to get more money. And then the nice car and the nice house, it's a byproduct of who you became along the way.
Kim, I got to ask you this. You ready for this one?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What are the real riches of life?
The real riches of life are peace,
Okay.
joy, I would say relationships.
Yep.
What else? I would say, your relationship with God. What else? I would say having a heart of like giving. When you give, like it feels so much better to give than to receive, I would say. Yeah. But those things cannot be bought. Like those things, they have to be internal. You have to work on them to have that. No amount of money or no car, no house is going to give you peace. Like there are people that have all the riches in the world and they're stressed out, because you don't get peace and your identity from things. You get it from God.
Yeah. And it begs the question of what does it take to achieve peace? What does it take to achieve joy today, right here, right now? What does it take to have quality relationships? Right? What does it take to be a giver? We're focused largely on principles in this podcast, and you're going to see a lot of reoccurring ones. And this one, the quality of our lives is dictated by the quality of questions we ask ourselves every day.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, that brings me to our next point. So here's what I want to ask you, with what you're doing, what are some, go ahead and just fire off a few questions that somebody that is financially savvy would ask themselves every day to make sure that they are in check.
Well, I would say, what is my long-term goal? What is my short-term goal?
Yeah.
Am I doing the daily actions to get me to my goal?
Ooh, good. Good.
I would say, are the people around me aligned with my purpose and my goals?
Huge.
What are my distractions and how do I eliminate them?
And let's get microscopic now, right? Because it's the success of our business in our lives is embedded in the most minute details.
Okay.
You have $1 in your hand, which isn't much compared to how much money is in the world, right? $1. And you have a choice to spend that dollar. What's the question you ask yourself before you go ahead and spend it?
What is the ROI of me spending this dollar?
What is the ROI of me spending this dollar?
Yeah. Is this an investment or am I investing or is this a liability? Is it an asset or a liability of what I'm investing? If I spend this dollar, let's say, for example, I spend this dollar on a McDonald's hamburger. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a liability because I'm not taking care of my health. If I spend this dollar on, let's say, a homeless person I see along the way, then, maybe I fed them or maybe I help them gather more money for X. What am I spending? What is the ROI on this dollar? If I give that dollar to the homeless person, now I feel good. I feel like I did a good deed.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a conversation I was having with my team this morning about how Darren Hardy said it. Success is mundane. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how boring, mundane it might be. Ask yourself that question. Is this an investment or is this a liability, right?
Yeah.
Every time you go to spend money. Well, guess what? When you start asking yourself those boring, no fun questions, that's when you know you're winning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hashtag, am I right?
It's true. Hashtag yes. It's true. You're doing the same boring activities every single day. It's like, for example, going to the gym. Most people switch up their workouts all the time, but to get the results of being toned or definition, you do the same workouts every single week. Every single week, you're going to do the same arm sets, the same leg sets. Like over time, repeating the same boring workout is what's going to get you the physique that you want. It's the same thing with money. Over time, doing the same boring budgeting every single month, putting your money away, investing, it's boring. It's going to get you the wealth that you're looking for. It's not this like aha moment and it's so exciting. Like that's just not it.
No, it's not. And folks, on that note, we got to close out shop today. Fuck, Tim's blown out. Tim, holy smokes. This was one of the most fire up conversations. I'm super glad we got to do this. How do people get a hold of you?
So you can reach out to me. My Instagram is Kimberly Financial Coaching. Or you can reach out to me on TikTok. It's Kimberly Finance Co. Or you can go to my website. It's KimberlyFinancialGroup.com.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. Elite League Podcast. Wow. This was incredible. We gotta have you come on for part 2 to get your life story.
Oh my goodness, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Yeah, y'all stay tuned for part 2. Again, make sure to check out Kim on all social media platforms and her website. Until next time, everybody, stay fired up.